Hey guys, how's it going? Rhetorical question, I guess. Bored now, back with you for another Devs review. So, getting back into this, the Alex Garland sci-fi mystery, and this is gonna be my review of the fourth episode of this mini-series. So, I'm gonna dive straight in, full spoilers as always, and things really getting going, really cooking now with the mystery. Just expanding a lot on the science and the theories of the show and all the different ideas it's playing with. And I think it's just getting better and better. I mean, I think this might have been the best episode yet. Some great music as well in the show at certain points, like the way they like bookmark like the start and the end of the episode, and how you kind of get images at the start which seem quite random and they're there to make you kind of think, and but then they do work themselves out. So in a way, although it's a continuing story, I think there is kind of at least that sort of conclusion at the end of the episode where it brings things back around. It's a nice little wrap around. But yeah, there's some really strong music in this show as well, which really adds a bit of mood and atmosphere, and some well picked songs that really fit the moments, fits the scenes. So again, the mystery aspect and what's happening with Lily and her and Jamie kind of getting closer to the truth is slow burning quite nicely, and at the same time you have the stuff at Devs that's working side by side with that, which is in many ways the meat of the show, I think. But it kind of, I think we're seeing more and more connections between the two. Now I'll talk about the stuff at Devs first, because that kind of makes sense, because I think what happens with Lily and at the end of the episode and stuff is makes sense to finish with that. But so the two techs, the two main technicians at Devs, you've got Stuart, who's kind of the oddball, like older guy, and you've got Lyndon, who's like the much younger guy. I think he's like 19 or something, and he's the more kind of wide-eyed, open, but sort of more reserved in a way. Oddly, Stuart's like the more eccentric, I think, because he's like the wise one and he's been there, seen that. So maybe he can afford to be more relaxed. Whereas I think Lyndon's kind of this younger guy who just goes in and just focuses on getting the job done, and I think he's like super nerdy and ambitious just to impress Forrest and Katie. So I guess it does make sense, and he's like the more deadly serious and focused one. But there's some nice banter between them, but we do see them with playing around with certain imageries, simulations, and trying to develop the technology. And Lyndon has this idea to develop it through sounds, using sound waves over the different like eras, and that's kind of his big like philosophy in the episode. And again, you have Stuart who's kind of doubting this approach a bit, but this is Lyndon's big idea to develop the technology. At the same time, we're finding more out about Forrest and his past, about obviously his daughter who was killed. We've seen, and he's been seeing like images of her, simulations and things like that. I think that's probably who like the big figure is at Devs, or sort of outside, like on the grass. The big, you've got the massive simulated like girl, and I think that's meant to be his daughter. But at the start of the episode, we see him actually looking at a simulation of Lily, and it's her crawling on the floor. She appears to be in danger, and Katie walks in on this. And bear in mind, I think it was in the last episode, she admonished Lyndon or Lydon, I think his name might be, and Stuart for like the evasion of privacy, you know, with the sex scene between Marilyn Monroe. Sex scene might be the wrong word, but anyway, the simulation of Monroe and Kennedy having sex. You know, she says we just don't do that at Devs. We respect people's privacy, even though they are now both dead. And yeah, so she's very consistent, Katie, which you've got to give her that, because she does the same here. Not so much with a privacy thing, but this is a future simulation of Lily, and she says the same to Forrest. And it's even more like pointed with him, because she's basically saying, well, if we set these rules, then we can't then go and break them ourselves. And I think you're seeing Forrest getting more and more personally involved. But yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that simulation seems to like map out Lily's future. It seems to be then she's going to die one way or the other at the hands of, well, probably Kenton, but then that's in her future. The simulation itself doesn't make it clear. But that gets into the whole basis of devs and their like ambitions, because is this destiny? Is this set to happen no matter what? Like, can this really be changed? They sort of feel not. If it's predetermined, then Lily's on that path one way or the other. But Katie obviously demolishes Forrest for like looking at this simulation. And the big thing in terms of like the advancement of devs, or what happens amongst like their own like crew, is that later on Lyndon comes up with like this amazing like simulation where it literally goes back decades and decades, centuries, and it's like Jesus on the cross, Jesus being hung up on the cross in his final days. And this, Lyndon expects this to really impress Forrest, and this is his big breakthrough. And yeah, this is a massive moment for what they've been doing. And everyone else seems to be impressed. I think it's quite hard to read Katie's like demeanor. It's hard to tell if she's that impressed, but certainly she seems to have like taken note. And Stuart is like celebrating. He's going crazy, but no, Forrest isn't. He's very upset. And his whole thing with this is, it's that classic Chestnut of it's just a copy of what happened. It's just a Jesus on the cross rather than the Jesus on the cross. And this is because Lyndon has used multiverse theory, and Forrest says that goes against our whole way of thinking at devs, our own like our whole setup. We don't use multiverse theory, and yeah, he really admonishes Lyndon for it. He says, yeah, this doesn't work with what we practice here, and he's just not convinced by it, and he actually sacks Lyndon. He fires him. It's a really harsh scene, and again, the whole like atmosphere is very sort of intense, and you see what a tight ship they run there, because in Forrest's mind, like Lyndon broke the rules, then that's it. He's out of devs. He's been kicked out. And I think, bearing in mind some of their actions, like towards Sergei and some of their other like actions, I'm not sure if this is it for Lyndon or not, but you fear that then if he tries to come back or try something, then he could be in trouble. But it's a really jaw-dropping moment. I think definitely the other two in the room, Katie and Stuart, is just aghast. It's like, what's wrong with you, Forrest? He was only doing his best, kind of thing. And arguably it's an amazing achievement, but yeah, Forrest just this incredibly harsh sort of character, or he certainly can be anyway. I think at his most extreme. But yeah, that's all really interesting stuff. And I think, just switching tacks for a minute, I think you get the stuff with Kenton, who's like, he's kind of befriended Lily, or at least that's part of her plan that she's making, like him think that she's on his side, then she'll cooperate with them. All the while, she obviously got the hard drive, she got the security footage, and has figured out then the whole Sergei killing himself was like staged. But as part of like a strategy, she has kind of agreed to go along and work with like a psychologist appointed by devs, by the tech firm. And Jamie, who obviously they've been working together, he tries to persuade her to go to the police, but she doesn't want to at first. She's kind of convinced that it might not do any good, they might not believe her, and that she has this plan and it's maybe the best way to go. So another thing I like actually is that Kenton's obviously is trying to keep tabs on Lily, and is trying to keep her under his control. So he goes to her house and is like fishing around, and you have the like the homeless guy who is always like living on their doorstep, and he's been quite a character whenever we've seen him pop up, and he is quite defensive of Lily, and he sort of has this line, because he says, and they've like gone, and there's like this sharp exchange between him and Kenton, and the homeless guy kind of says, I'm not afraid of you, and Kenton, in his very like deadpan Kenton sort of way, just says, yeah, I can see that, and I can't figure out why. So he's clearly not used to like people standing up to him. But it's this great exchange. I like the homeless guy has been like just this amusing character, and it's quite a charming little thing, like his connection and like loyalty to Lily, because they obviously let him stay on their doorstep essentially. But anyway, Kenton persuades Lily to see the psychologist. And of course, this is all part of their scheme because they want to control her. Whatever she tells the doctor's going to pass on, even though he's not supposed to, and he's telling her otherwise. And she opens up to him about like the whole Russian thing and what happened to Sergei. And of course, like the doctor passes this on to Kenton, and they basically play it like she's a suicide risk, then she will commit suicide, then she is dangerous. So what happens is Kenton goes after Lily again later in the episode, and she actually manages to escape. It's like a nicely played sort of scene. We're seeing Lily being quite like coy cat and mouse type thing, and it's at this point because they realise then the therapist is like under the thumb of Kenton, so it's at this point Lily agrees to actually call the police. She decides that's like her last resort. And she does, but it doesn't work out because they kind of have the police under their control. But basically, the way it works out is then the doctor shows up and he backs up Kenton. He says Lily is a suicide risk. She needs to be taken into like psychological care. And so that's what happens. They arrest her. They take her into like a psych ward. But the ending is really dramatic. Not just the fact that they get Lily, but the way it ends with Jamie, because Kenton shows up out of nowhere, like after they've taken Lily away, and he goes into the bathroom after Jamie. He appears and goes in, and that's the dramatic ending. So you sort of wonder what's he gonna do to Jamie? Is this it for Jamie? Like Kenton could just eliminate him, but I guess we'll find out in the next episode. But another good episode. Again, I really loved the stuff at Devs, and I think the back and forth with Lily and Kenton and the whole psychologist thing I thought was nicely done. Again, some good style. I like the way the episode opened with each like principal character just highlighted with these like bold sort of neon type colours. So I thought that was very well done, and we're getting into more of like Forrest and his like personal history as well, and I think they're gonna like open up his motivations a bit more. So really good stuff. I actually thought this was the best episode of the 4 so far, and that's impressive because I was into it anyway, and I think it's only like grown stronger, so I'm hoping that continues. But that's my review of episode 4 of Devs. I'll be back with more Devs reviews soon, and I should just say it's a busy time for me in TV reviews on the channel because a couple of new things starting this week. You've got a big new Netflix show, a period drama called Hollywood, and that's by Ryan Murphy of Glee and American Horror Story fame, amongst other things. Pose as well, I think he was behind that. And it's fair to say he has a very hit and miss track record, but he obviously is a big name and has a lot of big shows under his belt, so it certainly sounds like that'll be one that's at least worth checking out. So I'm not sure if the whole season is going up on Friday. I certainly know they're putting up the first episode. I think it's going to be a mini series, so you can expect me to at least do the first episode, and then I'll see how I feel, and that'll decide really if I'm going to do any more. But you can expect the first episode of Hollywood to a review of that over the next couple of days, and another new show hitting on Friday, just showing how busy things are. This time on Amazon Prime is Upload, which is another very intriguing and potentially trippy science fiction show, sort of sci-fi with a bit of comedy, from one of the Parks and Recreation writers, Greg Daniels, I believe. So that's going up Friday, Amazon Prime. In fact, all episodes going up this Friday. So I'll be checking out that also and giving you a review of that. So plenty of interesting new TV coming up, and my reviews of them on the channel. I've also been reviewing the new season of Killing Eve, so a couple of episodes up, or reviews of episodes up on the channel, so you can check those out as well. But thanks for listening, like and subscribe, get me up on Twitter, and I'll see you guys again soon. Let me know what you think of Devs in the comments below. See you guys soon.